Hi, I'm George Norrie, and welcome to our Coast to Coast AM YouTube channel. Have fun, tell your friends, and share us with everyone. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Coast to Coast AM's mobile app. And always remember to log on to our website at coasttocoastam.com for daily articles, the best paranormal information, and all you need to know about your favorite guests. And now you can become a Coast Insider directly through the Coast mobile app. We welcome our international listeners and even offer a free 2-week trial. So don't delay. Become an insider today.
All right. Explorer, Quest for Africa's Living Dinosaur, is an award-winning documentary film that follows a team of scientists on a mission to find evidence of the elusive Mokele mbembe, a creature believed to be a living dinosaur in the Congo Basin. Alex Brecker is an international communication expert, writer, and documentary filmmaker. After graduating in communications and film studies in France, Alex embraced a career in international development, working with various international organizations in Central Asia, the Middle East, Africa, and the Pacific. He lived for 3 years in Cameroon, during which he shot 2 feature-length documentaries, Message in a Bottle and the aforementioned The Explorer, Quest for Africa's Living Dinosaur. Alex Brecker, welcome to Coast AM. How are you?
Very good, Richard. Good morning, or good evening for you.
It's also morning here now, very early, just after 3 o'clock in the morning, Eastern time. So, first of all, congratulations. It's a beautifully shot film. I mean, the scenery is absolutely stunning. Just describe when we talk about the Congo Basin, I mean, that's a vast area. Just kind of give us a sense of what the terrain is like and what part of Africa you were in.
Absolutely. So, we're talking about the Congo Basin, which is a forest, a tropical rainforest that's about the size of Europe. It stretches from the Atlantic coast in Gabon to the mountains of the Moon in Tanzania. So all across Africa, and it's one of the last wildernesses, unknown, uncharted areas in the world. Well, if you compare it to the Amazon, for example, the Amazon has been widely explored, but the Congo Basin remained extremely mysterious. So the area in this very vast forest where we are looking for Mokele mbembe is at the border between Cameroon and the Congo, on the Cameroon side, along a river called the Ja River.
So Mokele mbembe will probably be familiar to many Coast AM listeners. I've talked to Dr. William Gibbons, who's been to the Cameroon and Congo on several expeditions looking for this elusive creature. But now it has its own movie, Mokele mbembe. What do the locals say it looks like? How do they describe this creature?
Basically, they describe it as a sauropod dinosaur. So the first testimonies of Mokele mbembe go back 300 or 400 years ago. There was a French bishop called Abbé Proyard, who was a missionary in that part of Africa. And he started collecting testimonies from the locals who described that giant claw-footed animal that really looked like a sauropod dinosaur. So people have said it looks like an Apatosaurus. If you look at the different, if you collect different testimonies, but there's no clear description of the animal, just the global shape. Maybe it has a horn, maybe not, but every local tribes person would agree to say that it's huge, and that's why they have called it Mokele mbembe, which means one who can stop the flow of rivers. So it tells a lot about the size of that animal.
And you mentioned an Apatosaurus. I think that's what we used to call a Brontosaurus, which, absolutely immense. The film is titled The Explorer. So while it is about the search for Mokele mbembe, it's really focused on Michel Ballot, this former lawyer from France who left everything behind to go to Africa to find this creature. Tell us some more about Michel Ballot.
So Michel was a lawyer in the south of France, and about 15 to 20 years ago, he started writing letters to Bernard Heuvelmans. So for those who know about cryptozoology, Bernard Heuvelmans is a Belgian scientist, and he is considered the father of cryptozoology. So he's very well known for his investigations on Loch Ness Monster and Yeti and Bigfoot. Obviously, he was also involved. He examined the body of the Minnesota Iceman, which was a very famous case in the U.S. So Michel started exchanging letters with Bernard Heuvelmans, and he asked him, like, bluntly, where in the world would I be likely to find a cryptid? And Heuvelmans said, well, you should look at the Congo Basin, because there you have an animal called Mokele mbembe, and we have lots of testimonies, there's some evidence, and it's likely that there's something out there. So Michel went on a first journey to Cameroon and the Congo. He spoke to the locals. The locals confirmed that there was something big living in that forest, and then he went a second time, found new evidence, then 3 times, 4 times. He dropped his job, and now he is a full-time explorer, so he dedicates his life to the search for Mokele mbembe. He has been in about more than 25 expeditions. He was writing me recently that he's planning for another expedition that will take place in October, so he goes there 2-3 times a year. And, he finds new evidence each time he goes there. And, I'm quite sure that he will find something one day. I mean, there's too many proofs that the beast exists. And Michel is certainly the most advanced researcher, specialist of Mokele mbembe.
So you were living in the Cameroon for about 3 years. Were you doing sort of NGO type development work there at that time?
Yes, I was working. So I started. I was working with WWF, the conservation organization, and then I worked with the UN, the United Nations.
Okay, so during that time, you met Michel Ballot. What were the circumstances under which you met Michel Ballot? And then maybe you can describe what that first meeting with this explorer was like.
Absolutely. So basically, Michel got a bit of a reputation in France, got well known in France, because he wrote a book called Searching for Mokele mbembe. And I read that book, and it was absolutely amazing. So at the time, I was working with the World Wildlife Fund, WWF, in Cameroon. And I read that book, and, I found the research absolutely amazing and fascinating. And he was describing areas which I used to know when we were, for example, tracking elephants or gorillas. So he was looking for Mokele mbembe in the same area. And the funny thing is that I met some Pygmy tribes people when I was working there, and they would talk about Mokele mbembe at night, at the fire camp. So when I read that book, it really resonated. And I was like, okay, I need to meet that person, because certainly we have lots in common. So I sent him an email. I told him, I'd love to join one of your expeditions one day if you would invite me. And he told me, I'm going in 3 weeks, come along. And then I went with him on the first expedition.
And were you filming at that point, or was this simply a kind of an introduction to the terrain and so forth, or did you start filming right away?
No. The first expedition was really to go there, to discover, to learn more about this quest for Mokele mbembe, to meet Michel, to look at the terrain, and to be really honest, I didn't believe much in Mokele mbembe at the time. If you know that part of Africa, people would describe lots of myths or monsters. They talk about, for example, mermaids, the mamiwatas, in the large rivers of Africa, and we know this is certainly not correct. I mean, they're not creatures of flesh and blood. So for me, Mokele mbembe was maybe more of a myth. Now we went on that expedition. So when you go on an expedition even from Yaoundé, the capital of Cameroon, it's not an easy journey. So you have to drive basically for 3 days on dirt roads. It's very long. Then you take a dugout and you go on the river, on the Jar River. You go upstream for another 3 days. You have mosquitoes, you have flies, you have lots of insects. So it's quite an adventure. And then you reach this absolutely wonderful Enki waterfalls, which are basically the doors to the area where Mokele mbembe is supposed to live. So I went on that expedition just to see the nature, to discover a new place of the Congo Basin. But the thing is, we found something. We found some new evidence during that first expedition. And then I started believing that maybe something exists out there.
We want people to watch the movie, and we don't want to give everything away, but can you give us a hint as to what that first little bit of evidence was that you discovered that led you perhaps to believe in the reality of Mokele mbembe?
Yes, absolutely. Well, and it's very funny because you mentioned Dr. William Gibbons, Bill Gibbons, earlier in the show. And going back to 2012, Bill Gibbons was with Michel in that part of the Jar River, and they were setting camp, and they heard a big roar that really crossed the forest. And, well, the local people said, well, this is certainly Mokele mbembe. But it was very far, and then it stopped. But they came back, no recording, nothing happened. And when I went back there so in my first expedition, which was in the winter of 2015, one night we were also set around the fire camp, and we were starting to eat, and we heard a huge roar and then a big splash, something that really crossed the forest. I mean, really something loud, and the splash was even louder. And we interrogated local people, and they said, well, maybe these are elephants, maybe gorillas, but we're not really sure, or maybe, to put it simply, it's Mokele mbembe. That place is known for Mokele mbembe, and, it was the middle of the night, we're in the middle of nothing, in the middle of the forest, so you tend to believe in what local people say. So the day after, we took the dugout, and we went upstream to try to find the area from where the roar was coming from. And we saw some large footprints. They were a bit hard to read, but it was something very large, like 80 centimeters and 55, so something quite big. And that was it. And the locals confirmed, that's Mokele mbembe. So this is what happened during the first expedition. And the funny thing is that we recorded a bit of the sounds. I sent it to Bill Gibbons, and he told me it's exactly the same kind of sound that we heard back in 2012 during our expedition. So this is what happened. And when I came back from that expedition, I had more questions than answers, obviously. But the way people talk about Mokele mbembe, what you can find in terms of evidence, I tend to believe that it's absolutely real.
So that first expedition that you accompanied Michel Ballot was 2015. When did you actually start filming for the documentary The Explorer?
So that was a couple of years after that. So in 2017. So in 2017, so what we talk about the winter in the northern hemisphere is the dry season in Cameroon. So basically, if you want to go on an expedition there, you can go there's a window from October, November to March. Then it's the rainy season, and it's you really can't go. I mean, the flow of the river is too strong. So in September 2016, Michel reaches out and he tells me, one of my trackers has found a cave that is said to be the den of Mokele mbembe. So it's very far. Not only we have to drive for these 3 days and then take the tugboat for 3 days and then climb the key waterfalls and walk, but we have to walk for about 10 days in the forest to reach an absolutely remote area that's in a totally pristine forest, so no human civilization, nothing. It's complete wilderness out there, very dangerous as well. But we might possibly find the den of the animal, and obviously some hard evidence, that Mokele exists. So, do you want to come? And I told him, yes, of course, but I would like to do a movie, to film a documentary on the research. To share that with the world. It's too amazing, So he told me, okay, no problem. I told him I will bring a camera. I will certainly hire a pygmy tracker to help me with the sound. We want to be as light as possible, but we wanted to shoot a professional movie as well. But we're just a 2 people strong team, and we try to be absolutely invisible. So people wouldn't see us. We would just follow the expedition and follow Michel, and so that we wouldn't be intrusive with the cameras, and it worked pretty well.
And the locals there, the pygmies, when they talk about Mokele and mbembe, they've seen it, they've encountered it. Are they frightened by it? Do they hunt it?
So they are frightened by Mokele and mbembe. If you look at the area, there's a village called Ndongo, and Ndongo is about 5 hours boat ride from the port where you drop the car, basically. And you take the boat, you go upstream for 5 hours, you reach that village of Ndongo, and this is the last village. Then if you go upstream, so 2-3 days towards the Enki waterfalls, you won't find a local on the river. You won't find a village, and even fishermen stay in the area of Ndongo, and they don't go further upstream because they're afraid of Mokele and mbembe. And it's absolutely amazing. There are fishermen, there's plenty of fish out there, but they don't go there because they're afraid of the beast. And if you look back at the... Yeah, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah. And if you look back at the history of Mokele and mbembe, so in another place, area of the Congo Basin called Lake Tele, and that was certainly in the 70s or 80s. So Lake Tele is another high, hotspot for Mokele and mbembe sightings. It's a lake, it's a crater lake that was certainly created by a meteorite that fell down on that forest, and it's another very remote area, and lots of there has been lots of sightings happening over there. And back in the 70s or 80s, there's apparently a couple of Mokele and mbembe were terrorizing local fishermen, so they couldn't put the boats on the lake to go fishing. So the local villagers, decided to kill these Mokele and mbembe. So there were some canals leading to the lake, and they started creating traps to try to trap the animal, to attract the animal in these narrower water streams, and then to kill them. So they managed apparently to kill one with spears and arrows, and then they ate the meat, and most of the villagers died because the meat was certainly poisoned. And it's a story that has been told across the Congo Basin. It is said to be true. And poisonous meat, animal that can attack the boats, because that's also what they say. So they're terrified about Mokele and mbembe.
Okay, I can't imagine the challenges that would be presented to a filmmaker. Being in this vast wilderness. Maybe you can talk about some of those. I know you travel fairly light as a filmmaker, and obviously now the technology is pretty small and compact. But how do you keep the equipment dry, and how do you keep? I don't know. You tell me. What are some of the other challenges of filming in the Congo Basin?
So, it's extremely, extremely complicated. The first problem is the problem of batteries, because there is obviously no electricity. So for that film, we're filming for about 3 weeks, and I had 8 batteries. So it's not a lot. And I had a small solar panel that would allow me to charge 1 battery per day when the conditions would allow. So, when you shoot a documentary, you have to produce lots of footage. You have to film a lot to really be able to capture the right moments. But with only 8 batteries, you have to think before shooting, which is not what documentary filmmakers like to do. So that was a kind of a technical challenge, but well, we were quite fortunate that it went on very well, and the coolest things, the most interesting things of the expedition happened while I was filming. So I was very fortunate to that extent. The other issue, the second issue, is a physical challenge. So imagine you're in a super wild area. You have lots of every possible animal on Earth that's trying to kill you. So you have snakes, you have mosquitoes, you have flies, that are worse than mosquitoes. I mean, mosquitoes are the worst, the least of your problems, sorry. And you're constantly harassed by these insects. And you have to film. And when you film, you have to find the right angle. So I have to, for example, run in the forest to be ahead of the expedition, to see them walking towards you. So it's physically really exhausting. During the filming, I lost about 5 to 6 kgs. I came back, I was very skinny. My wife told me, what the hell have you been doing? So that's a big challenge. And then, the overall challenge when you shoot a movie about cryptozoology is to find producers. So we found a great producer in France, but we had really limited means, which means, we for example, we didn't have materials to protect our equipment from humidity. That's what the question you asked, because it costs a lot of money, and in the Congo Basin, there's a humidity rate of above 90%. So basically, we took plastic bags, and we tried to protect the equipment that way. But basically, my camera didn't survive the expedition. But it was fine. I mean, it broke on the very last day when we're coming back to Yaoundé. So that's fine. It never worked after that.
And what about the danger? You mentioned mosquitoes and so forth and snakes, but I mean, you're sleeping maybe not under the stars at night, but you're sleeping in a thin nylon tent, just separating you from all of these. Well, what kind of encounters with wildlife did you have? I mean, did you ever feel like you were in danger?
Basically, all the time. It's an extremely, extremely dangerous place. So I mentioned insects, spiders, mosquitoes, tsetse flies, and snakes. We're mostly afraid of snakes. You have 3 types of snakes in that forest. So you have the green mamba, which lives in the trees, so it can bite you in the neck. You have the black mamba, which is a territorial snake, and it's on the ground, and basically it would defend its territory, so he would attack you on purpose and try to kill you on purpose. And both, they can kill a human being in about 1 to 2 hours if not, you're not treated properly. And there's another snake that I was never able to identify, that the locals call the snake 3-2-1. So basically, it bites you 3, 2, 1, and you're dead.
Lovely.
Yeah, it's quite amazing. I really don't know, and lots of other explorers have heard about that snake, but without being able to identify it. So at the beginning, you're afraid. You look at the trees, you look at the ground, you look at the insects, you look at everything. And then after 2-3 days, you start being a bit more relaxed and categorizing the animals that you encounter between what can kill you and what won't kill you. So, for example, one night I was sleeping in my tent, and it's indeed a very thin island tent that's protecting you from the wilderness. And my tent was very small, and I'm quite tall. So at some point during the night, I was not sleeping well. I wanted to stretch, and when I stretched, my foot touched something, a living creature, just outside of my tent, across an island, and I felt something cold moving near to my tent. So I opened the door of my tent, and it was a giant python, of maybe 5 to 6 meters long. And I was like, well, this thing won't kill me. So it's 4 in the morning. Tomorrow we have a long day of walking. I just closed my tent and went back to sleep. That's the kind of state of mind that you're in.
Very nonchalant, even though you were just inches away from a killer python. What about, there are gorillas there as well. Any fear of gorillas, ripping your tent?
In terms of megafauna, what we call megafauna, you have elephants and gorillas. So gorillas are extremely impressive. And even in that area, there are completely wild gorillas. So in some parts of Africa, you have habituated group of gorillas who are used to human presence. But there's no human presence, so they're absolutely wild and they can be very aggressive. But if you see a gorilla, so the silverback, the male, will come towards you first to protect his family, and will try to impress you. So he will scream, like, and show his teeth. The teeth of a gorilla are really impressive, and try to scare you off. If you run, you're dead. The gorilla will catch you and will kill you. If you put your eyes down and even knee on the floor to show the gorilla that you're on his territory, he will let you go. It's all a domination game. So gorillas can be very frightening, but they're not the most dangerous of these large animals. Elephants and the subspecies that you can find in the Congo Basin, they are called forest elephants. They're a bit smaller, just a bit smaller than the savanna elephants, but they're much more aggressive. They're being hunted relentlessly because their ivory is what people call pink ivory. It's a bit more precious than regular ivory, so they're being hunted. And they're aggressive. And if an elephant wants to starts running after you, he will run after you until he kills you. So you better run faster or try to hide. They have bad eyesight, so if you run fast enough, you can save your life, but they will do everything they can to kill you.
Any close calls with either gorillas or the forest elephants?
Yes, of course. And we saw a gorilla, but from really far during the expedition during which we shot the movie. We saw more during the first expedition. And the elephant. So if you watch the movie, we at some point were in a forest clearing, and we saw a beautiful forest elephant that was bathing in mud. So we stayed there. I started filming and everything. So at some point the elephant turned towards us and started walking really slowly and then faster and faster, and then went after us. So I just grabbed the camera and we all ran away, and we managed to escape with no damage, hopefully, but that was really close.
And can you share an instance where you thought you might be getting close to capturing a Mokele and mbembe on film? Footprints or more noises or a splash in the water?
Well, I really don't want to spoil the movie, but so we went on that expedition. It lasted for about 1 month in total, so 3 weeks of filming. And during the first 2.5 weeks, the journey was amazing. We heard lots of locals. We recorded testimonies, and it was great. Then we went into the forest, into a completely unknown area above the Enki waterfalls. We got lost in the forest. so if you see the movie, everything was captured. And then we managed to go out of the forest after living so many adventures. And it was great. And I knew I had a good film on tape, but no good evidence of Mokele Mbembe's presence. And when we were walking down from the forest, crossing the Jar River, we found an island that we called Dinosaur Island because of what we found over there. And it was one of the culminating points of Michel Ballot's career as an explorer, because we found some evidence on that island that can possibly prove the world that Mokele mbembe exists. But once again, it's everything is the movie, and I know some of your listeners will watch it, so I don't want to spoil it. But I'd be very happy to discuss more with people who have seen the movie of how this can change perception of cryptozoology and what lives in the Congo Basin.
So for when you say that Michel Ballot, I think you said he's been on, was it 25 expeditions?
Yes, more or
looking
less.
for Mokele mbembe? Something a creature this conspicuous. You must get this question, and he must get this question all the time. How is it that a creature this big, that has been seen by so many of the locals there, the pygmies, how is it that it's eluded him for so long?
Well, there has been so many expeditions. Some people have heard roars. Some people claim to have seen it. I don't know if you recall in the early 80s there were some large American expeditions. One was led by Dr. Rory McCall from the University of Chicago, and he worked with a local guide, Félicien Agnagna from Congo. They went to Lake Tele. They say they have seen the animal, they have filmed it, but the camera didn't work. So lots of people claim they have seen it, including the local people. And, they see Mokele mbembe, I would say, on a weekly basis. That's what they say. So imagine the size of the area, the size of Europe. The forest is extremely thick, so you can walk 3 meters away from an elephant. You won't see the elephant because these animals are silent. The forest is thick, so they're very hard to spot. You don't see many animals. Not like you see an elephant every 5 minutes, but there are plenty of elephants and there are plenty of gorillas. But if you see one elephant during a whole expedition, you're happy. And scientists say that to have a breeding population of an animal, of a species like Mokele mbembe, you need 1,000 animals. And considering the vastness of the area, having 1,000 animals is a firm possibility. It's so huge, it's so dense, it's so unexplored that it's a possibility. And when you go on an expedition, you put like game cameras, which are these cameras that trigger when an animal passes in front. But technology is still limited. It's one expedition, a column of 10, 15 people in the forest, going there, looking around. It's your chances, the odds that you find something or that you have a visual encounter with a Mokele mbembe are very thin. But once again, if we continue the research, and we will continue, and I hope my movie will help raise funds to continue the research, I'm persuaded that we will find something, because there are too many evidence, too many witnesses for something not to be found, and that would be the greatest zoological discovery since maybe a century.
If the local pygmies have on occasion hunted this creature, one would hope that they would keep the bones. Are there any pygmies who claim that they have bones, or they have some sort of physical remains of this creature?
Yes. So, I think Bill Gibbons and Rory Nugent, who wrote a while ago a book called "Drums Along the Congo," which is an excellent book on the search for Mokele mbembe as well. They claim they have seen bones of unknown animals that belong to pygmy tribes, but basically, the only case of a Mokele mbembe being hunted is the story I was mentioning earlier of local pygmy tribes killing a Mokele mbembe on the shores of Lake Tele. And that's it.
Right.
They don't hunt the animal. They're afraid. The animal is said to be big, is said to attack the dugout and to kill the people. So they're they're not hunting these animals. They're hunting smaller game to eat, and they don't keep the bones. And the other question that rises quite often is why don't we find bones, skeletons of Mokele mbembe?
The Explorer, and how can we screen it? It's now available on Vimeo, I understand.
Yes, absolutely. So it's available on Vimeo. So vimeo.com/on-demand/The Explorer Film. So vimeo.com/on-demand/The Explorer Film. And we release it at a very low price. And basically all the revenues that are generated from the film will be used to fund our next expedition. We have a plan for a very ambitious expedition, still on the Ja River. And we hope to make a bit of money out of the release of the film and to be able to go back there and obviously to shoot a second movie.
Sounds like you've caught the bug. I mean, you never set out to be a filmmaker that makes movies just about, cryptozoology, but now it seems like you may have caught the same bug that Michel Ballot caught.
That's a great question. Maybe I did got the bug. But, we're so close of making a fundamental discovery. I really believe that Mokele mbembe exists. I really believe that if we go back there at some point, we will find it. There's so much evidence. And really, finding one of the great cryptids would be an amazing, more than an amazing discovery. It would send the word, the message that there are still unknown places of Earth, and that these unknown places, they still hide mysteries, and some amazing mysteries can still be solved. I strongly believe that the age of exploration is not dead, that people have just lost interest. So, being an explorer, going there and trying to prove the world that some mysteries are still there would be, it's an amazing thing to do.
So the movie is called The Explorer. So let me ask you, is it about Michel Ballot and his quest, or is it about the creature itself, Mokele mbembe, or is it 50-50?
It's about 50-50. It's about 50-50. So, cryptozoology documentaries, they all sometimes, most of them, they follow the same structure. They're real documentaries formatted for TV, and sometimes you hope that you will see some revelations and that some secrets will be revealed, but generally, from the ones I've seen, you're always a bit disappointed at the end. What I wanted to do with The Explorer is to shoot a real movie, and we were lucky enough to be quite successful and be selected by many great film festivals, mostly in the US, but also elsewhere in Europe and Asia, because it's a real movie. It's something that people who are not interested in cryptozoology can enjoy as well. But obviously, as a passionate filmmaker and cryptozoologist, it also includes lots of information about Mokele mbembe and the quest. So I would say yes, 50-50. It's about a search of a man that is sure that he can unveil one of the greatest mysteries in Africa, and it's about the mystery itself.
So what is Michel Ballot's idea if he actually finds one of these creatures and, you capture it on video, but is he interested in capturing one? Would he consider, tranquilizing one so that it could be, you could affix some sort of a radio tracking device to it? What does he want to do with it if he finds one?
So the answer is twofold. First of all, I think when you choose to dedicate your life to chasing a cryptid, it can be challenging. Your loved ones are supporting you, but up to a certain point, and even your professional relationship. When you start to embark on such an adventure, you lose friends basically, and you make so many sacrifices. So I think that Michel wants to find Mokele mbembe to prove that he was right. When you dedicate 20 years of your life to searching an animal, you really want to find it just to accomplish your destiny. So that's his personal quest. Now, capturing a Mokele mbembe, taking picture or video recording of a Mokele mbembe would also help protect that part of the world. So the Congo Basin is the victim of poachers. You have lots of poachers. You have deforestation. Forest elephants are being killed. And if you bring back proof that there's a dinosaur, a giant lizard that lives in the area, you're more likely to protect the area and maybe to build some sustainable tourism around the presence of that animal. And it would basically save the Congo Basin. And that's the other dream of Michel. He's a passionate conservationist as well. He loves the area. We all do, and he would like to protect it.
What are Michel Ballot's feelings on or thoughts on what this creature might be? The idea that this could be a holdover from that major extinction event that wiped out dinosaurs 65 million years ago. Does he think it could be a survivor from that, an actual Apatosaurus, or does he think it's a creature we haven't categorized or cataloged it yet?
So he thinks, and we will do that. It is certainly a creature that hasn't been cataloged yet. That it's just an unknown animal, and it maybe not a dinosaur that has survived from the Cretaceous or prehistoric times. Now, we are surrounded by dinosaurs. Dinosaurs are everywhere in the world. Look at sharks, crocodiles, or coelacanth, that fish that they discovered 40 or 50 years ago in the Comoros. So these are dinosaurs. These are living fossils. These are creatures that haven't evolved since the ancient times. So we all think, including Michel, that Mokele mbembe could be a large reptile that hasn't evolved much, but certainly not a dinosaur.
Has any of the locals, the pygmies, have they ever witnessed a Mokele mbembe fighting a forest elephant or a hippopotamus or any other creatures?
Yes, back in the Congo 20 or 30 years ago, local people said about a big fight that occurred between a Mokele mbembe and a giant snake. And we got some testimonies as well of Mokele mbembe fighting elephants, and that's in Cameroon and also in the Congo, attacking elephants and keeping the tusks. So this is quite strange, but lots of researchers think that Mokele mbembe could kill elephants and keep the tusks to create a kind of, not a nest or to protect their territory or so that's what local people say. Now there is another cryptid in the area that's a bit less known. It's called mbembe ntuka, and mbembe ntuka means the elephant killer. And some cryptozoologists think it could be a triceratops. And it's a large animal that with a horn that is targeting elephants specifically. So, big question, is Mokele mbembe and mbembe ntuka the same? Are we talking about two different cryptids? Well, on that we really don't know.
Is there competition among these explorers like Michel Ballot and I know he and Dr. Bill Gibbons are friends, but is there a level of competition amongst them, because there are more than just those two that are searching for this creature? A competition to see who will be the first? to spot one and to record it?
No, I think that everyone's helping each other. The competition took place in the early 80s in the U.S. You had like two prominent explorers, Dr. Roy McCall and Rory Dunget, who both mounted their expeditions in the to Lake Tele in the Congo with lots of means, financial means. So they wanted to bring proof, and there was a kind of competition. Mokele mbembe was high in the news at the time. Disney issued a movie called Baby, The Secret of the Lost Legend on Mokele mbembe. So at the time it was really in the spotlight. Now interest has vanished a little bit, and all the explorers, Michel Ballot, Bill Gibbons, and the other serious people looking for Mokele mbembe, we are all helping each other. So sharing intel, sharing some equipment sometimes, and going together whenever we have the opportunity to do so. I've been discussing with Bill Gibbons, I think a couple of weeks ago, and we are thinking of going together on an expedition along with Michel, and certainly in the swamps of North Gabon, which are very promising places where we can find something.
Now, you mentioned Bill Gibbons. He's a creation scientist. Does he still believe that Mokele mbembe is a holdover from the mass extinction event that killed the dinosaurs off 65 million years ago, that somehow several of them survived and continued to breed?
Well, you need to ask him. Now, in the conversations I had with Bill, he's also very pragmatic. He's using a scientific approach to find Mokele mbembe, and we all do. Also, we respect local cultures and beliefs, and we listen to local people because they have a lot to tell us, but we are using scientific methods to find Mokele mbembe. So I think that Bill's take is first to find strong evidence and to find Mokele mbembe, and then, to assess what kind of animal it is. But once again, you look at crocodiles, you look at sharks. They are leftovers from the ancient times. So everything is possible.
What about drones? Are you employing drones, Alex?
Yes, we do. We do. So both regular drones and underwater drones as well. But it's very challenging because of the batteries. So you burn a drone battery normally for a normal use in the northern hemisphere, for example, it lasts 25 minutes to half an hour. In the Congo Basin, because of humidity, it's you have 5 minutes of flight time, so it's very short, and you need to be very lucky to spot a Mokele mbembe. We did use drones, we didn't find much, but once again, within the 5 minutes time range, it's a bit complicated. We also used underwater drones, but the water is so dark, so brown that it's very difficult. Now, there's a Monster Quest expedition that went to the same area 5 or 6 years ago, and they used sonars, and it was quite promising. They found large sonar prints of a large animal, and that's the next objective that we want to do. We want to go back there to kayak down the Ja River so that we would be completely silent with sonars on the kayak, and maybe we could find something.
You won some awards at some film festivals.
Absolutely. So the film had a very successful festival career in the U.S. So we won a first award, Best Documentary, in San Francisco at a great festival called Another Hole in the Head. And it was quite unexpected. And then we won the Best Documentary Feature Award at the Midwest Weird Fest with our very good friend Dim Bertram, who's a great supporter of the film. And then I think in total we won 9 or 10 awards for 17 or 18 selections. So it had a great festival run, and now we're really excited to release it to the public.
It's such a beautiful film. I mean, it's breathtaking. In fact, as you know, the Congo Basin is breathtaking. it deserves to be seen on a big screen. Is there any plans for like a theatrical release?
So it has been screened in theaters in different festivals, but really, the goal for this film is to make the quest for Mokele mbembe known to wider audiences. So that's why we chose online release. We have followers all across the world, in Europe, in the US, even in Africa a lot, so we really wanted to make it as widely accessible as possible. But it has indeed been screened in theaters, and I'm doing some conferences and public talks quite often across Europe, and so with movie screenings and then talks, which are quite successful.
Why don't you think an organization like the National Geographic would be interested in this story?
So they are interested in Mokele mbembe. There has been a great National Geographic documentary on the Congo Basin, and they talk about Mokele mbembe. Now, cryptozoology is always a delicate topic to deal with for mainstream media like National Geographic. It's at the limit of science and paranormal studies, which are not always considered noble science. I do consider that cryptozoology is a science like any other sciences, but some mainstream media, some mainstream film producers say, it's a bit obscure, it's the paranormal, so it's more genre kind of film.
It was either the lowland gorilla or the mountain gorilla. I don't think was actually verified until something like, 1913. So prior to that, either the lowland or the mountain gorilla was sort of in the same boat as Mokele mbembe, right? Just a kind of this legendary mythical creature. Probably mainstream science didn't necessarily even believe it existed.
Exactly, Richard. Before the early 20th century, local people in the Democratic Republic of Congo, at the border between Congo and Rwanda, were talking about large, hairy men, human beings that lived in the mountains. And, some people would say, Yeti, Bigfoot. But no, they were real creatures called, mountain gorillas, and they discovered them. So because of a cryptozoological approach, we discovered a new species of animals. Same goes with the okapi, which is a very strange animal from the Democratic Republic of Congo. It's kind of a balance between a zebra and a giraffe. And local people would talk about that okapi, and no one would believe them. But at some point, they did find that animal, which exists. So really, for me, cryptozoology is a science like any other science. We must listen to local people, and if we follow a scientific approach, which is what we do when we look for Mokele mbembe, we might find something in the end.
Are there similarities, do you think, between Mokele mbembe and the Loch Ness Monster? Could it be the same type of creature, or do you think they're two separate species?
So, witnesses of the Loch Ness Monster would describe more a plesiosaurus, which is another subspecies of dinosaurs. Mokele mbembe would be more of an apatosaurus, or a kind of large sauropod brontosaurus dinosaur. They both live most of their life in the water, but there are very few sightings of Loch Ness Monster on land, whereas there has been lots of sighting of Mokele mbembe on land. So I think we are talking about two different species. Now, for the Loch Ness Monster, there's been lots of sightings, and obviously it's very big in the news. Now, really thinking that we need about 1,000 individuals to have a breeding population. Lots of scientists think that the Loch Ness Monster is more of a myth because you wouldn't have enough nutrients in the lake, in the loch, to feed a population of 1,000 large animals. The Congo Basin is much bigger, and obviously you have all the nutrients you need. So well, that's what scientists, including Michel Ballot, including some other scientists who are keen in finding Mokele mbembe, think about the Loch Ness Monster.
Speaking of Ballot, Michel Ballot, the explorer, do his friends, family, do they think he's crazy?
His wife is from Cameroon, and his wife supports him totally, because in Cameroon, well, you know, Mokele mbembe is a real animal. It's not like, wow, amazing, a Mokele mbembe dinosaur, like our perception here. Well, when you go there, when you meet people of the forest, pygmies or bantus, you know, they say, in the forest we have elephants, we have gorillas, and we have Mokele mbembe, and that's it. You know, it's totally normal. So for his wife, he is normal. For the cryptozoological community, he is one of the most expert scientists and researchers of Mokele mbembe. Now, I'm sure there are people who think he is crazy. I don't know for him. I know for me, you know, when I went on my first expedition, I told my wife, look, I'm going for 3.5 weeks in the forest. I will have no cell phone, nothing. But really, I'll come back and then we'll see what happens. And my wife's uncle called my wife and told her, like, sorry, I have something to tell you. Your husband is cheating on you. And she said, why? Because, well, going in the forest for 3 weeks to look for a living dinosaur, I mean, that's one of the craziest stories I've heard. He is cheating on you. He's going to see his girlfriend.
Wow.
And obviously it was not the case, but, you know, it sounds bizarre, it sounds strange. But then when you start looking at the research and at the method and the approach, well, it's a totally serious and rational approach.
How does Ballot live, though? If he had I would think a pretty lucrative career as a lawyer in France, and he left that all behind. So now, how does he survive?
Well, his wife works and has a quite good and successful career, and Michel Ballot found his expedition through sponsorship. So he had sponsors behind him. He writes books. Now he just wrote a second book, and he sells his books, and people support his quest. He has an association, and he receives grants for the research. So he's not a rich person, but he's living the dream, which is absolutely priceless.
While you were with him, on that first expedition in 2015, and then when you were filming with him and you were there for about 3.5 weeks, did he ever confide in you that he's getting discouraged because he hasn't found Mokele mbembe?
Yes, many times. But the question I kept asking him is, do you really want to find Mokele mbembe in the end? You know, when you're in such a search, when you find the animal, then this quest is over. And I think he's as excited to find Mokele mbembe as afraid to end the quest. Now, a question I asked myself when I went with him and I started filming the movie is that, okay, if we see Mokele mbembe, if we spot the animal, do I film the animal or do I film the face of Michel Ballot? And well, I came to the conclusion that I would do both. You know, I would take a pic of Mokele mbembe and then quickly shift to Michel Ballot and film his face. Because when you have a man dedicating all his life, you know, losing friends, making so many sacrifices to find a gigantic animal, and that he finally sees it, well, what happens in his eyes might be something absolutely amazing.
We were talking about how dangerous it is over there. You've got the wildlife, you've got, mosquitoes, and so forth. There's also is there not still a civil war raging in Cameroon?
Well, there are several conflicts in Cameroon. You have, yes, there's a civil war, but it's in the western parts of Cameroon. There is a rebellion of the Anglophone regions versus the French regions. In the north, you have terrorism, and you have the war in Central African Republic that spills over in Cameroon with about 250,000 refugees. So it's a quiet. Well, you have to be aware of that, of conflicts. Now the area that we're exploring is absolutely empty. There's no humans. So the most dangerous humans that you can come across are poachers.
Right.
And poachers, they have war weapons. They're out there for the elephants, and they won't hesitate to kill you if you're on their way. So we're always a bit afraid of poachers. Hopefully, we never met any. We were close to a camp of poachers, and we heard gunshots. It's in the movie. We also saw a dead elephant, and we went away quite fast, and that's the closest we've been to poachers.
Alex, how again do we watch the movie The Explorer?
So The Explorer is available on Vimeo, so vimeo.com/on-demand/The Explorer film. Vimeo.com/on-demand/The Explorer film.
Alex, great speaking with you again. Thank you so much. It's a beautiful film. Congratulations.
Thank you so much, Richard. It was a pleasure. Thank you. And thank you to everyone.
The Coast mobile app is now available for download on iPhones and Android devices. You can become an insider directly through this app. This is a great option for our international listeners, and new users will also receive a free 2-week trial.